Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland tonight. Tributes to a teenager killed in a violent incident in Glasgow.
I can only describe it as extreme grief. We've lost Armin.
Also tonight, councillors back plans for a controversial £43 million school on Mull. Plans to turn Inverness prison into a place for the community. And Lewis will have all the sport for us. Lewis, what have you got tonight?
Well, Amy, we're going to look back on an incredible result for Rangers in the Europa League last night, and we're going to hear from the Scotland camp ahead of their penultimate Six Nations match against Wales this weekend.
And I'll have all your Friday entertainment news.
Hello, I'm Amy Irons, and thanks very much for being with us on Fridays at News at 7. Tragic story to start the programme tonight. The sister of a 15-year-old boy who died in a violent incident in Glasgow has paid tribute to her brother. Police launched a murder investigation after Amin Tekli was found seriously injured on Clarendon Street on Wednesday night. Our reporter Hope Webb is at the scene for us now. Hope, you've been speaking to Amin's family and friends. What have they been saying?
Yeah, well, a community is in mourning tonight as news of the death of 15-year-old Amin starts to sink in. Amin had a large circle of friends and he was described as a big brother character to many young people that he knew. The Eritrean community in Glasgow is relatively small, but it's fair to say they are reeling over his loss. It has been just less than 48 hours since Amin was found seriously injured here on Clarendon Street on Wednesday evening. And a police cordon here has now been lifted and people have started to lay bunches of flowers. I read one note on a set of flowers that said, "Look at the stars, see how they shine for you." Now, Amin's sister, as you mentioned, spoke to BBC Scotland earlier today, but she didn't want to be filmed. She said that Amin was not just her brother, he was her best friend as well. She said he was so kind and so bright, and when he walked into a room, he made everybody smile. She also told us it feels like currently she's living in a dream. She is still in complete denial about Amin's death. I also got the chance to speak to a man who worked with Amin as a support worker at a local community centre. Jamie O'Neill said many people are struggling to come to terms with his death.
It still doesn't feel quite real when we're talking about Amin in the past tense. And you do just expect just to see him, or you'll see a video or something on your phone and he does still feel alive. I think that will take time to come to terms with.
Just absolutely tragic for Amin's family and friends, Hope. But a lot of people will be wondering, what's the latest with the police investigation?
Well, as for the investigation, ultimately Police Scotland says its priority is to find any individuals connected with Amin's death. Officers say they're keeping an open mind and they are following multiple lines of inquiry, but they have stressed that they believe there is no wider risk to the public at this time. A portal has been opened so people can submit information anonymously and hopefully piece together what led to Amin's death.
Hope Webb, thanks very much for bringing us right up to date. Councillors have back plans for a controversial new school campus on Mull, a decision that's expected to leave some pupils travelling to the mainland for their education. Andreas Wolff has more for us.
Tobermory High School is in a poor condition, but Argyll and Bute Council were successful in attracting funding to replace it. However, parents in the Ross of Mull campaigned for it to be moved to a central location so that their kids can attend it too. They currently have to board in Oban.
We're not asking for the money that they tell us it's going to cost. We're asking for an opportunity to make it affordable, and if that means compromises, if that means mitigating costs, raising our own funds on the island, then those are things that need to be looked at in a fair process, and they're not allowing us to do that.
The community requested to halt the process and consider their proposal to split the site and keep the primary school in Tobermory, but this was rejected by councillors.
There is no site that's going to be perfect for everybody, but I think it was important for our education and for the benefit of our young people that we moved forward with this.
Officers stressed again today that a split-site solution was unaffordable or that council tax would have to be raised by 1.5%. They also said that a single campus had significant educational benefits and that a delay would risk the whole project. Andreas Wolff, reporting Scotland, Lochgilphead.
Let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland today, shall we? Police have launched a murder inquiry after a man was found dead at a property in Glasgow. The body of James Jarvis was found in the Postle Park area on Wednesday. A dad whose son died following a series of hospital errors says the NHS is failing to learn from its mistakes. More than 800 safety incidents were reported last year. More than 600 Scottish students were accused of misusing AI last year, according to figures obtained by the BBC. Several students were expelled in Aberdeen and Glasgow. And Rangers have paid tribute to a football fan who died while crossing a road in Turkey. Christopher Potter travelled there to watch the team's Europa League match. Well, for more information on all of these stories, you can scan that QR code on your screen now and it will take you straight to the BBC Scotland News app. Now, Inverness Prison is a place that nobody wanted to end up, but it's set to close soon and there are now plans to turn it into a space for the community with sports facilities and gardens. Chris McLennan has been finding out more for us.
Behind these massive walls sits HMP Inverness, a prison dating back to the early 1900s. It's currently home to over 100 inmates and in recent years has experienced overcrowding issues. But it will soon be vacated as the prison service moves to a new £200 million facility on the outskirts of the city. Now, a local group is seeking to explore if it can take over the prison, also known as Porterfield, for the benefit of the community.
Well, we'd really like to see more green spaces in the local area, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to increase those green spaces and also to create a community hub as well. You may not be aware that this is one of the few places in Inverness that doesn't have a community centre, and this is an opportunity for us to address that.
Crown Connects has plans to turn the current prison into a community wellbeing hub, offering green spaces and facilities for sport and business.
We've got the community behind us, but obviously we want to do more research with the community because this is very much community-led and we'd like their ideas to help drive this project forward.
Locals say they believe a community transfer could bring local benefits.
Well, there are things like cafes and hotels and so on, but these are commercial spaces. I think it would probably make quite a positive difference to the area if, for those who need those kinds of facilities, for those who would benefit most from those facilities, if they had something like this where they could drop in, owned by the community, operated by the community. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, Inverness is the absolute centre of the economic, social and cultural life of the Highlands. And if we are able to use that space, that building, and bring both an old building and new 21st century uses together, that's only good.
The Scottish Prison Service says it's still to decide what to do with HMP Inverness, but under this proposal it appears this place, that for so long has kept many locked up, could fully open its doors to welcome people in. Chris McLennan, reporting Scotland in Inverness.
Yeah, it's going to be one to keep an eye on, isn't it? Now we're going to turn our attention to some good news for football fans. We found out today that all Scotland's main international football matches will be broadcast live on the BBC in the run-up to the 2026 World Cup. Our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin told me all about it.
I think Scotland fans for a long time have had to jump around in terms of where they've been watching the Scotland games, and there have been campaigns for so long about trying to get this protected free-to-air status. It looks like those campaigns have paid off. My understanding is this has been a tricky road to get to this point. So there have been delicate negotiations between the UK and Scottish Government, the BBC, and of course the Scottish FA. They finally got this over the line. For the SFA's perspective, they have always been really keen to have these games free to air, but they also have to balance up that or have that difficult balancing act between eyeballs on TV versus commercial revenue. So it seems that the stars have aligned this time. And of course, given the feel-good factor around Scottish football and the Scottish international game in particular, I think the SFA are really pleased that this is now free to air.
The big question, I suppose, do we know how much this is actually going to cost the BBC at a time where we know they have a lot of money that they're trying to save?
The easy answer to that is no, we don't. I have asked the question. The BBC say this is a commercial deal and they don't talk about commercial contracts. But you're right, this is not going to be an insignificant sum. It's a pan-BBC deal. Remember taking in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. There may be some eyebrows raised at this about the fact the BBC has managed to get this over the line, given the fact that broadcast rights at international level are very, very expensive. So it's something of a coup for the BBC, it must be said. But the big winner, I think, Amy, in this is the fans. As I said, they have spent the past couple of years trying to figure out where the Scotland games are on. Now they have some certainty, and now they have what they want, and that is to watch their team free to air.
Now they just need the results and the performances to match. Chris,
Simple.
Thanks very much. Chris McLaughlin, our Sports News correspondent. Thank you. Well, what do you think? Are you pleased to see Scotland Games on free-to-air TV? Let us know what you think about that story, or indeed anything else. We love hearing from you. Our email address is news7@bbc.co.uk. Well, still to come, we have the weather with Chris, and we will hear from the Scottish band preparing for their biggest gigs yet. But first, it is sport with a man not afraid of a microphone. Lewis is here.
I don't know how to take that, Amy. I'm going to take it as a positive for sure. Thank you. We're going to start tonight with Rangers and an incredible performance last night in Istanbul. Barry Ferguson's third match in charge as interim coach saw his side put 3 past Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce in the Europa League. Rangers lead the tie 3-1 ahead of the return leg at Ibrox next week, with a place in the last 8 up for grabs. Earlier I spoke to Joshua Barry from Rangers Review, who says fans can't be sure what to expect from this Rangers side.
This unpredictable habit they've now got of not really being able to be consistent domestically, looking uncomfortable in games where they dominate the ball, even against far inferior opposition, just doesn't seem to kind of matter when they play in this competition. Last night you thought, will it be a step too far? It's a new management team. This season has been what it has, and there wasn't a lot of optimism going into it. But like they've continued to do right throughout this season and seasons before, Rangers defy the odds and look, they don't look like slowing down in Europe anytime soon.
And of course, it is worth mentioning, isn't it, Joshua, that it is only half time in the tie, that cliche, but as big a result as it is, there's still a lot of work to be done next week.
There is, yeah, and I enjoyed Mourinho's post-match comments. I think we'll be in for some more interesting remarks before the game next week. It is what you'd say is Rangers have probably somewhat of an advantage, given that they look at their most comfortable, Lewis, and this is like a habit of the whole season, and it probably summarises their domestic issues. They look more comfortable when they don't have the ball, and you'd think with Mourinho's team that similarly they'd maybe be a bit more comfortable playing on transition. So going in with a 2-goal lead is much more beneficial than a 1-goal lead, and it could have been 1 if Jack Butland doesn't make that late save. So it's still all to do at Ibrox, and I think Barry Ferguson was quite keen to temper it. Equally, you're going in with a huge advantage, and they need to now try and capitalise upon that.
When you get results like this as an interim head coach, Joshua, what does that do to the fan base in terms of, are there people calling for this to be turned into a permanent position for Barry Ferguson?
I think there was after the Kilmarnock game, probably went quiet after the Motherwell defeat, and Barry Ferguson he's said, I'm here for the short term. That is certainly the club's plan. We know that there's a lot going on in the background, and there's a reason why they've moved to an interim head coach. You'd be kidding yourself, I think, if you don't think that Barry Ferguson wants to give himself the best chance possible, and as he should. He deserves a lot of credit for that last night. Beating Jose Mourinho 3 games into your Rangers managerial career is not a bad way to kick things off. I still think there's a much bigger picture, and there's a lot more Rangers need to get right than just getting the next managerial appointment right.
To rugby now, and Scotland's co-captain Finn Russell has faced down his critics ahead of the penultimate Six Nations match against Wales. The Bath fly half missed all 3 of his goal kicks in the agonising defeat away to England 2 weeks ago, including the chance to win the Calcutta Cup with a conversion in the 79th minute. Ahead of tomorrow's match, he insisted he's unfazed by criticism from outside his inner circle.
When you miss a kick to win it right at the very end, that's again part of the job, and that's kind of why you do it, to get these chances, these opportunities. And I'm not too stressed about what's been said about my game, as long as I'm thinking and happy with it myself, then that's kind of all that matters. And to be fair to me, I go back to my family and friends, and they're the ones that are kind of the first to either pick me up or put me down, either way, depending on how it goes. So I think my dad was saying, like, unlucky with the kick kind of thing, but you played really well overall. So for me, that means more than what others say. So.
Let's go back to some more football and to the Scottish Cup quarter-finals, no less. 8 teams in with a shout of walking out at Hampden on the 25th of May for the Cup final. We'll come back to the first of the ties in a moment, but tomorrow Queen's Park head north to take on Aberdeen. On Sunday, holders Celtic welcome the in-form Hibs, and Livingston and St Johnstone meet in West Lothian on Monday for a place in the semis. Tonight, though, the Cup quarters kick off at Tynecastle, and Brian McLaughlin is there to preview Hearts against Dundee.
Yes, good evening to Tynecastle Stadium here, where the Scottish Cup quarter-final action gets underway with the host Hearts here at Tynecastle taking on their Premiership rivals Dundee. The last time the teams met, Hearts hammered 6 past Dundee without reply. That was in the league. Hearts are 8 times winners of this competition. For Dundee, however, you need to go back to 1910 when they last lifted the famous trophy. Kick-off here is at 7:45. The match is live on BBC Radio Scotland. Brian McLaughlin reporting Scotland at Tynecastle Stadium.
To the running track now, and Glasgow's Neil Gourley will be limbering up soon at European Indoor Athletics Championships in the Netherlands. Gourley won his 1500 metres heat last night and goes again this evening in the final in Apeldoorn. He won silver in the same event 2 years ago, but to go one better, he'll need to beat the great Norwegian Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who's going for a record-breaking 3rd consecutive golden double over 1500 and 3000 metres. Best of luck to Neil tonight. So rugby, football, tennis, golf, athletics, all sorts of content for you on the BBC Sport website. Stay back there. And for you wannabe football officials, there's a piece on the latest VAR review where the SFA's head of refereeing, Willie Collum, analyses some recent controversial decisions. So yeah, that's quite a read there, Amy, to get caught up on.
Lewis, you'll break that camera.
I know, I usually do. I usually do that, yeah.
Lots happening. We've got athletics, we've got Scottish Cup, we've got Six Nations. You're going to be very busy.
Action-packed. I better go.
Thank you. Now, earlier this week, we brought you the sad story of a whale that died after becoming entangled off the west coast. It was first spotted off the coast of Skye last Thursday, trailing ropes more than 60 feet behind it. The sperm whale sadly couldn't be saved despite the efforts of the wildlife charity British Divers Marine Life Rescue, and later washed up on Rassay. It's among several whales thought to have become entangled in discarded fishing gear this year. Well, earlier I spoke to Ellie McLennan from the Scottish Entanglement Alliance and asked her why this happens.
This is the 6th entanglement we've had in the last sort of 10 weeks, which is really unusual. We don't usually see so many. It's just a combination likely of increasing whale populations, changes in their distribution, and just bringing them into areas where they're more likely to come into contact with fishing gear.
The whale that washed up on Rassay died. Is that the usual outcome?
No, so of the 6 that I mentioned, this is only the 2nd one that's actually died as a result of the entanglement. We had one other humpback that came ashore dead down in the southwest, so this is just the 2nd one. The others have all been successfully released.
Is there fishing gear that maybe reduces the risk of, if a whale does get entangled, it being the kind of outcome that we've seen this week?
We do see entanglements in all types of fishing gear. The sperm whale on Rassay this week was in the vertical inline of a creel fleet, most likely fishing for prawn, we think, in deep water. And that's the gear that we've been focusing on when it comes to mitigation for the last couple of years. And we've been trialling with fishermen the use of sinking rope or negatively buoyant rope. And that removes any loose rope from the water.
Is there anything that, fishermen can be doing when they're out there? Are there things that could be preventing these types of incidents that we're perhaps not seeing that you would like to see introduced?
I think certainly the majority of fishermen that we've worked with through the Scottish Entanglement Alliance, and that's going into several hundreds of them, they are fishing incredibly responsibly. I think fishermen are doing everything they can. I mean, I'm sure there are some bad practices going on, as there are in every industry or organisation, but I would say that Scottish fishermen, the creel fishermen that we've been working with as a community, are already doing some really, really great work, and we're really optimistic about the future of entanglement risk, and that we're going to be able to reduce this quite significantly.
Yeah, Ellie McLennan, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. Ellie McLennan from the Scottish Entanglement Alliance, thank you. Time now to catch up on all the week's entertainment news, and Indigo Stafford can tell us what's been happening.
Let's start off with some music, shall we? And there's a Scottish band that's taking the world of social media by storm. Their name is Dead Pony. They're gaining thousands of fans, and now they're even supporting rock legends You, Me at 6 on their tour. Well, our reporter Frankie Allen chatted to them, and a warning, her report does contain some flashing images.
How has the last year been for Dead Pony?
God, we've had like a total whirlwind of a year.
Yeah.
We released our debut album in April of last year, so almost a year ago. And pretty much since then, we've just been touring. We finished the year with like our biggest headline tour to date, which was amazing. We just released a single. Was it the end of last year?
Yeah, I think it was the end of November.
Yeah, the end of November, start of December, called Everything Burns. And it's our kind of heaviest song to date.
Yeah, you scream in it.
I do scream in it.
There's a scream in it.
We actually just made a TikTok for this song like a couple of weeks ago that like randomly went viral.
I think overnight on Instagram we gained like 20,000 followers.
Yeah, something like that. It was insane. We didn't expect it to blow up like that. We just made this like silly video when we were in the studio one day and it totally blew up.
And do you find that it's quite important these days as a band thinking about algorithms? Because you say you put that out and you didn't even think it would go viral.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's taken us a long time to like come to terms with the fact that TikTok and Instagram and things like this are such good tools for promoting your band.
You're supporting You, Me at 6.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm buzzing,
It's
to be honest.
It's
yeah.
actually like, I used to like go to the cat house unders when I was like 12 years old. It just feels so weird that like these songs that You, Me at 6 used to play, like, you know, like were the kind of soundtrack to my like early teenage years, and now we're like going on tour with them for their final ever tour.
Yeah, I remember
Crazy.
listening to them like in primary school.
Yeah.
And supporting them now, so yeah, for sure, full circle.
What an exciting time it is for them, Indigo. Turning our attention to film now, and the Glasgow Film Festival wraps up this weekend.
Yeah, it's your last chance to head along to the film festival. It comes to an end on Sunday with a really incredible film. It's called Make It to Munich. It's an inspiring story about an 18-year-old called Ethan Walker. After he survived a near-fatal accident, he goes on this huge journey to Munich because he wants to watch Scotland play in the Euros. It's really inspiring stuff. And as one festival is coming to an end, a new one is coming to Glasgow because next week marked the very start of the Glasgow Comedy Festival. Well, I caught up with comedian Roscoe McClelland. He's not only starred in the likes of Scot Squad, but he also had one of the highest rated shows at last year's Edinburgh Fringe. He's doing 2 shows at the Glasgow Comedy Festival, and he's also taking part in a special tribute show for the late comedian Janie Godley.
It's your money. You just did
money,
a drug
mate.
deal. What do you mean it's not your money? I seen you.
No,
It's yours.
It's yours, mate.
It's not.
You know what I mean? Take the money, mate. Go to the theatre.
How exciting is it to be performing at the Glasgow Comedy Festival?
Well, it's brilliant. Well, you know, people say that Glasgow, you know, everybody's funny in Glasgow, and it's just great to have sort of like a festival to see who is the funniest. I think this is a challenge that's been set down. If you're one of these folk that sits in a pub and goes, "Oh, I'm funny, I should be a comedian," get a show. Let's see if it's good or not.
So tell us all about your show then. It's called Sudden Death. What's that all about?
But I was born with a thing called long QT syndrome, and if I push myself to like my physical limits, if I was maybe like running fast or, you know, just strenuous activities or even stressful activities, my heart can, almost like a reset button, it goes into an irregular heartbeat and arrhythmia, and then tries to right itself by turning itself off and on again. So when that happens, I'm not here, basically.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
Does comedy help you with that mentally?
Yeah, I guess it always has, you know. It's that great, it seems like a Glasgow saying, if you didn't laugh, you'll greet, you know, and I guess that's the way that I've sort of had to deal with it, you know.
So I am going to talk about an issue that does affect me, I've got slugs that live in my bin. Day to day, it's affecting my life, man.
And you're performing at the Afternoon for Janie show as well, which is a tribute to Janie Godley. How much of an honour is that?
If I was to be nervous about one show, it's that, because I don't want to let Janie down. She's the person who said to me, she made me realise something about myself. She was like, well, listen, you know, it depends what version of you turns up on the night. If you can be bothered, you'll be brilliant. We'll never have a medium gig, you'll either be brilliant or really bad.
So you'll be thinking of that advice performing?
I'll be thinking of that, yeah. I might just go out and deliberately have a bad one and go, well, there you go. Wrong me turned up today.
It's a festival that just gets bigger and bigger, Indigo. Some really big names here this year once again.
Yeah, there's lots of big names to look forward to. We've got the likes of Russell Kane, Fern Brady and Frankie Boyle as well.
We'll have to be heading along. Indigo Stafford, thanks very much. There you go, some weekend plans in there if you need them. Now we're wondering if we are venturing out, Christopher, what the weather's going to be like. Bit of, gosh, variety we've seen the
variety
pictures we've got
today. This weekend, though, dare I say, it looks pretty good, Amy.
Good.
Temperatures for some into the high teens.
We'll take that.
But don't put your big coat away.
Oh, no.
I'll explain all. Let me show you some of the pictures that are coming to us today from our weather watchers. Shetland was the place to be. Beautiful blue sky and sunshine there. But central and southern parts, it was cloudy with outbreaks of rain. And that cloud just built through the course of the day. And it's still with us tonight as well. Let's take a look at what's happening over the next couple of days, the weekend. Well, let me show you on the chart. We've got a warm front in the north. That's going to bring some cloud and rain across northern parts. But for much of the country, actually, we're in between the cold front and the warm front. So what we call warm sector conditions. That means it's going to be mild, if not very mild, for most. Now, first thing tomorrow, it's going to be a cloudy and a wet start across parts of the north of the country. But in the south, it's dry and temperatures to start the day around 9 or 10 Celsius. Fairly cloudy first thing, it will improve. Come further north, though, and that's where we run into the overnight rain, still with us now, affecting parts of the north of the country, in towards the Northern Isles, more of a wind here, and a bit of a breeze around the north coast, but for most, generally, the winds are light. Now, through the course of Saturday, that rain is sticking put, and elsewhere, it's dry. With the cloud beginning to thin and break, there'll be some sunshine developing into the afternoon, and in the sunshine, temperatures respond. 17 degrees through west central Scotland and the south, cooler elsewhere. On Sunday, we've got some fog to start the day across the central lowlands. Still that weather front in the north with some patchy outbreaks of rain, but many parts of the country actually on Sunday, another decent day, plenty of sunshine around away from that weather front. Temperatures down a notch, but still not bad, mid-teens. Towards the east coast, feeling cooler with a breeze off the North Sea. And actually, into next week, that's where things start to take a bit of a turn. It will be turning colder. Here's why. We've got high pressure situated towards our northwest and therefore a northerly wind. Winds around high pressure going a clockwise motion. And that north wind, never a warm direction, will feed in some showers. Those could be wintry on the highest hills and mountains. But the air mass is key. And you can see on the colours of it there, it's blue, so it's cold and it will be quite a chilly week, certainly compared with this coming weekend. Here's what it means in numbers. Rather than 17 degrees, 6 or 7 is the afternoon high. There will be some cloud around, a few showers, a few bright spells, and whilst it is chilly by day, it will also be chilly by night with a return to widespread frost. This weekend, though, doesn't look too bad, Amy.
Oh, that's the thing about March, Christopher. You start to get your hopes up and then we see that cold weather.
Don't put the big coat away.
I'm going to listen to you. If there's any man I listen to, it's definitely you. Thanks very much, Christopher. That is it from us tonight. It's a goodbye from me and it's a goodbye from all of us to our colleague Katrina, who is leaving the BBC after more than 20 years. So thanks to you, Katrina, from all of us, and good luck. And thanks to you at home for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.